All right, here we are on page 53 of the logic test review. Okay, for number one, we need to translate from English into symbols using those logic symbols that we obviously learned about. So if you study, that is letter P, and the if implies that we're going to use a conditional statement, which means we need an arrow. So P, arrow, you don't go to the movie. R says you do go to the movie, so this is the opposite of what R is saying. If you don't go to the movie, so let it again, we're going to see an if, that implies an arrow. If you don't go to the movie, so not R, that's the opposite of what R is saying, then you get an A on the logic test. Q means you get an A on the logic test. That is exactly the same, so it's going to remain Q. All right, let's look for the operator here. You don't study and, so that's that upward arrow symbol, and you go to the movie. Studying was P. This is the opposite of P because you're not doing it. And you go to the movie, that's the same. That would be R. Number 4, you get an A on the logic test if and only if. That's that biconditional, which is the symbol with the 2 arrows. You get an A on the logic test is represented by Q. You study is represented by P. Q, double arrow P. All right, next section, we want to convert from symbols to English. So this is the opposite of Q. Q says you get an A on the logic test, so I'm going to say this is you do not get an A on the logic test. This symbol means or the opposite of P. P says you study, so this would be you did not study. The opposite of what P was saying. All right, number 6 starts with squiggle and then parentheses. Anytime you have the squiggle parentheses or the opposite in parentheses, you start the expression with it is false that. And that means that everything you're about to say is actually the opposite. Okay, looking inside the parentheses, we have this arrow. That means it's an if-then statement, a conditional. So if R happens, you go to the movies. Then the opposite of Q happens. You do not get an A on the logic test. All right, number 7, we want the converse of not R, arrow P. So first I'm going to find the converse of it. Converse, like the sneakers, we cross our legs, we think things move. So that would be P, arrow, not R. So let's translate this into words. The arrow makes us know that it's an if-then statement. If P happens, you study. Then the opposite of R happens, you do not go to the movie. Or you did not go to the movie. All right, let's look down at the bottom of this page because there are more problems down here. All right, assume that P, Q, and R are all true statements to begin with. Let's give the truth values for numbers 1 through 6 above. Okay, so we got to reference them. And we're assuming that originally they all start out as true. Okay, so number 1 was P, arrow, not R. P being true, arrow, the opposite of R, the opposite of true is false. The rule for T, arrow, F is T, arrow, F equals F. So this is a false statement. All right, number 9. We have not R, the opposite of R, arrow, Q. If R starts out as true, not R is false. Arrow, Q, which is true. The rule for the arrow is T, arrow, F. This is not the rule, so it has a different conclusion. It's true. Number 10, let's look back at number 3. Not P and R. Not P is F, and R is true. The rule for and is T and T is T. This is not the rule, so it's not true. It's false. Number 11, you get an A on the logic test. That's Q, double arrow P. They both start out as true. Neither one of them has been changed. The rule for double arrow is that if they're the same, then it's true. They are the same, so it's true. Number 5, not Q or not P. They both start as true, so the opposite of Q is false, or the opposite of P is false. The rule for false was true or false is true. I'm sorry, I apologize. The rule for or was false or false is false. This matches the rule, so it's false. All right, number 13, is the opposite of R, which starts out as true, arrow, the opposite of Q, which is false. The rule for T arrow F equals F. So we're actually going to take the opposite of F, and that's true.